what you're gonna do. When the NWO destroys you.
Anything less would be civilized.
Yo, what is up, friends and fellow truth seekers? Welcome to the Brave New World Order podcast. And you know me straight out the dungeons of podcasting. I am your host, Brandon St. One. And today, we're going to take a look at what's happening currently. And I just want to say it right off the fucking bat. Alex Jones was right. And what's happening is definitely an injustice that should concern every single American, because it's going to set a precedent, and this going forward is definitely going to try to silence people like the Brave New World Order podcast. Right now, small potatoes. I'm definitely not on any radar, I don't think, but maybe I won't ever be able to get to that point, because they are not going to let small, independent people speak their voices, because they won't let anyone speak their voice. Because if you go against the narrative, you say anything, you question things, now you could be ruined financially, and your whole persona could be ruined as well, and just for saying and questioning the narrative. And if you look at what happened with the Uvalde police, what if people weren't asking questions? I'm pretty sure they would have swept that right under the rug. It's the fact that people continued to wonder and ask what the hell really happened that day, and why those police were standing around doing nothing while those poor children got massacred. And the people asking questions brought it up. Now, you don't even hear people talking about it that much anymore. It's already kind of getting swept away in the mix of all this other stuff. But this is why I think this is so very important, regardless of what you think about the man himself. It's not about that. It's not about who it is. It's about freedom of speech. Absolute freedom of speech. No buts. Oh, no, I believe in freedom of speech, but none of that shit. So that's why I want to talk about this. And I probably will rant heavily in this episode. So come along and let's go. Let's rant. Let's get angry a little bit. Not too angry. We're not going crazy, but it's frustrating, and we have to have our voices heard. So that's what I mean by let's get a little riled up. Let's go on a little bit of a tangent. Let's rant and rave like lunatics once in a while, just to get our point out there, and just to show that our voice matters, and freedom of speech is the utmost important freedom. Because you can't get anywhere else if you don't have your voice. You can't persuade, you can't discuss, you can't ever get to the true bottom of these issues that we're dealing with, if you're not allowed to discuss them and maybe bring up some things that are a little, risque or a little bit on the edge. Because history shows that the fringe is necessary. That people like Galileo and all that, if you believe all the history and all that bullshit, that could be discussed at a different thing. But if you want to look at the official narrative of history, and that certain people were persecuted that were telling the truth, and they were laughed at, and they were killed publicly and exiled, and then 100 years later, or not even that long after, they were proven to be correct. So we need these people, and people like my channel, the Brave New World Order podcast, that are asking questions. It's very, very important. So before we take a look at some of the clips, I just want to say that I'm very grateful for you, my listeners. I love hearing from you, and I also can see the analytics and see that people are listening to this show, and I just want to say how truly grateful I am for each and every one of you that choose to spend some time listening to the Brave New World Order podcast, and I am very, very, very grateful for all of you. So thank you so much. And if you can continue to help me build this show and help it grow, you can click share, you can like this, you can subscribe so that you can see other episodes that I drop when newer episodes drop. You can also click the link in the show notes if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support the show and help it grow. Thank you so much for each and every one of you beautiful people out there. And now let's jump into Alex Jones was motherfucking right. I think this is important to talk about because it's freedom of speech, and it's if you are thinking about starting a podcast or anything to, get your voice out there, a website, and you just want to talk about the truth and try to seek the truth and ask questions about things that are going on, you might not do so because you see what's happening to certain people like Alex Jones and other personalities on YouTube and podcasts and Twitter and all this stuff. So I think it's important to bring it up regardless of what you think about Alex Jones himself. I don't want this to be, kiss ass fest for Alex Jones or anything like that. It really is more about us having a voice, and we need to rise up and we need to stand together. And I see people on Twitter that are laughing about Alex Jones going down and his whole life should be ruined for saying things. And that to me is very scary. And I don't know where we're heading if more people adopt that mentality. I think we should be able to have discussions and question things. And if somebody says something fucking batshit crazy that you think is batshit crazy, you should be able to just handle that and go, okay, and maybe just not be around that person, or maybe not turn on InfoWars and listen to a person like Alex Jones if you don't like it and you can't handle it. I don't understand what the big deal is. And well, I get it because I know that what they want to control us. So they will make it a big deal. But the fact that people go along with this and they don't read history and they don't know how authoritarian and how mass murders have happened, and it starts with censorship and it starts with disarming people, it's very frightening. So I have a few clips that I just want to show and have you lovely people listen to that show Alex Jones predicting the future back in 2001 and then also in 2020, and just show that we need voices like this to question. We need more people. It isn't really about himself. I think he does great work. I think we need more people asking questions. And that's why I decided to start the Brave New World Order podcast, because I have a lot of questions and I think I have the right, I know I have the right to ask them. So let's take a listen to Alex Jones from July of 2001 predicting 9/11 that changed the world forever. And if more people listened and spread that information at the time, maybe they wouldn't have been able to pull that off and then put all of these Patriot Acts and other security infrastructure plans in place. So take a listen. I don't know if you've heard this before. It's awesome. Check it out.
We know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliner. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame.
I put out the White House number, and I said, call the White House, tell them don't blow up the World Trade Center, and blame it on Osama bin Laden.
And I won't want you to believe Alex Jones. I want you to go get these news stories off my website. I want you to call these major newspapers. I want you to find out these statements were true.
Here's bin Laden. He's going to attack you. When he attacks you, you give up your rights. And I saw that in the newspaper. I saw it on TV. It was a talking point. They were rolling it out.
So they were rolling it out. There you have it. I mean, this is what they do. This is the game plan. They tell us in advance, and then we don't do anything. And then they say, hey, you didn't do anything. It's on you. Your fault. And then anybody who questions it after the fact, they're a Looney Tune. So just pay attention. Keep paying attention because they run these simulations. Look at Event 201. Check out the monkeypox simulation that accurately predicted the date that the first outbreaks would occur. So they're telling us. And Alex Jones predicted this way back in 2001, right before 9/11, that they were going to use Osama bin Laden and then that they were going to take our freedoms away. And that's what they've been doing ever since. So call the man what you will. He's definitely been on point, and he definitely has the right, and we all have the right to ask these questions. Let's take a listen to a clip from 2010 another good one. And I just love bringing this stuff up, and I collected some of these clips because I just think it's so important to listen to what he says because he's on point. And if you listen to the mainstream media, they won't dispute any of his talking points. They'll just show him getting like really passionate and kind of crazy and kind of screaming and stuff because he gets into what he's talking about. He's a passionate person, it seems. He's kind of crazy. Yeah, I'll give him that. But they don't ever really dispute what he's talking about and the points that he's making. It's all just judging him and his character and in the way he behaves. But they don't talk about what he's saying. You don't hear anybody really dispute 9/11 and the stuff that he talks about in the warnings that he gave in early 2020 about the pandemic. So just take that for what it is too. Look at that. Notice that when you see the way he is talked about and the way anyone is talked about, from Joe Rogan to Alex Jones to anybody who goes against the narrative, they don't ever dispute the talking points. They just talk shit about the person and try to get them on something that can try to ruin their career, like a N-word from 2008 or whatever. They will try to dig something up to crush that person, but they won't ever talk about the points that are being made. So keep that in mind. Check this clip out here and let me know what y'all think. You know, you can email me at any time, the Brave New World Order podcast at gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Brave NWO Podcast. You can DM me, all that good stuff. I prefer email, but I'm on Twitter just messing around. So you can hit me up there as well. I would really love to hear what y'all think. So hit me up anytime. Let's jump into this next Alex Jones warning from 2010 and just listen to it. And like I said, keep in mind how you never hear the mainstream media or any of these people try to dispute the points that are being made. Check it out.
How many times do you have to be lied to by global corporations, by governments, before you start realizing that they don't have your best interest at heart? If the people that control our nation, the military-industrial complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us about in his farewell address in 1961, if the people that run the military-industrial complex don't care about 1 million-plus dead Iraqis in the last decade, close to a decade of occupation, if they don't care about their lives and the media can sell you that that's okay, or if our media can ignore the fact that China arrests Falun Gong peaceful people and holds them and butchers them for their organs, do you think the elite running our society care about you? No. The CIA that's hijacked this nation openly chooses dictators and authoritarian systems of governments worldwide every time they have a choice. Every time they have a chance to choose what type of government they want to put in place, they want an oppressive dictatorship because they represent the big multinational corporations that want to exploit people and are cold-blooded. And then the poor liberals come in and vote for bigger government, thinking that big government will counter the corrupt, out-of-control megacorporations. And they don't understand. The big megacorporations love big government. They just buy off the politicians and use big government to extract your middle class or working class wealth and transfer it to them. We've got to shatter the left-right paradigm and realize the true paradigm is big government versus freedom. Command and control tyranny versus liberty. And no matter how the intentions start out, no matter how good people that want big government's reasons for it are, no matter how loving their intentions are, it always ends up going bad.
See, he's on point right there. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Even if some of these people think they're doing good for humanity, it never ends well. History has shown it time and time and time again. So, what do y'all think about that? I think if you don't know when he mentioned the Falun Gong, that is a group of religious, spiritual people in China that are actively at this moment still, and that clip is from 2010, but in this moment still in 2022, they are being harvested. Their organs are being harvested. They are being kidnapped, putting in camps. And when somebody rich, elite needs an organ, they get to select a person who they want an organ from. They get to select them like they're a lobster out of a tank. And they get to pick what person they want to get the organ from. Look into Falun Gong. I'm going to try to find a link and post that. It's a horrible, horrible genocide that's going on. And like he said, if these people cared about anyone, you would know about that. You wouldn't have to listen to the Brave New World Order podcast to hear about some of the atrocities going on in the world. You would know about them. You would know about Yemen and what's going on. Another thing to do a deep, deep dive into. What's going on in Yemen. And when they talk about these wars and they talk about Ukraine and democracy and that shit is going on in Yemen as we speak, you know that they don't care about anyone. They only use people to serve their narrative and their self-serving fucking prophecies. That's it. So, I'm going to see if I can find a nice link for the body harvesting of the Falun Gong. I hope I'm pronouncing that right as well. But there is a lot of information out about that. It's horrible. If you don't know about it, check it out. And also, another thing he mentioned was Eisenhower's farewell address that mentioned the dangers of the military-industrial complex. And it seems that everything played out exactly how he warned. And I'm going to post that clip at the end of this episode for y'all to hear. Because if you haven't heard it, I know a lot of people have. It's been out there for a while. And definitely check it out. So, I hope y'all enjoying this episode. And if you are, like this, leave a review, share it, subscribe, so that you know when new episodes drop of the Brave New World Order podcast. And share this with your friends. Spread the word. Trying to build the show. I see the numbers. I see people are listening. And you all have been reaching out to me, and I love it. I love hearing from you. Keep it coming. Keep the emails rolling in. And let's keep going with our little Alex Jones's Right Deep Dive and take a listen to a clip from early 2020 before the pandemic was officially called a pandemic, and listen to what he says. And he was spot on once again.
Bioweapon. What curveballs they're going to get to throw. This is an attack on the world economy. That's the prime result we get out of this is that, in my view. So why are they now hyping it all up? It's hurting the economy, and that's what this is really about. And it's going to standardize control at a globalist level, saying they need global government to respond to a crisis like this. This is not the only crisis that we're going to face this year. We're going to face economic problems that come from this and uncertainty. We're going to face military crises, and we're going to face cultural and spiritual crises, and we're going to see the UN further throw third world populations at borders of the West and attempt to break the West. And you and your whole family are in extreme danger of being murdered. Extreme danger. And it's not just from the virus they're going to release. It's from the collapse of civilization that's going to ensue, that they're then going to organize to consolidate power. Dire new report forces U.S. UK to change course on coronavirus strategy. Now you're going to be locked up for 18 months. Oh, that's going to cause a depression within a month of this crap. But that's okay. Now the depression isn't the bankers' fault or the politicians. It's all the virus. So now they can really screw you over. This has been the plan stated to cut off your carbon, to cut off your life, to cut off your mobility, to absolutely bring you down to a below a third world status. And when you deindustrialize and you collapse the first world, just the estimates put out by Russia and the United States, and Lord Monckton has his own, that if they did a 50% carbon cut like they wanted by 2025, they wanted the deal in place by 2008, didn't happen, that over 1 billion people would starve to death in the first decade. That's a billion. This is the mass culling. When the first world collapses, the third world dies, then we're third world, and then we are slowly collapsed as well. This is the takedown of the Western dream, the takedown of the Renaissance. the death of egalitarianism, the death of true liberalism.
So there you have it. I mean, take that for what you think about it for yourself and really think and process what he said in 2020 and where we are now and what's happening with monkeypox and the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset and all that stuff, and just think about it. Don't listen to me, and don't even, don't listen to anybody. Question everything. Question Alex Jones. Question me. Question the mainstream media. Question everyone and everything. That's what this show is all about. It's about asking questions and trying to figure out this reality. So take a listen to probably one of the funniest things that ever happened in the courtroom that I've ever seen. It's Alex Jones. I know you've heard that he's on trial. He's been ordered to pay $45 million trillion bazillion dollars for just saying something. But anyway, he was in the courtroom. He was being questioned by the lawyer of the families that are trying to get money from what he said. And he was being questioned. If you haven't heard this clip, it's going around. It's everywhere. So I just thought I would share it because it's really, really funny. Take a listen.
One of the things you've been talking about on your show is your allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
Well, you mean like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
I just thought that was hilarious, and the internet is having a blast with it. I suggest you go and look at some of the memes. Some people are really creative out there, and I've watched it so many times. It's so funny. So definitely check that out. And I also wanted to show that clip because I think it's hilarious the way that these people ask the question oh, so you think that the rich and powerful elite people are trafficking humans and people and doing all this bad stuff? Well, yeah, who the fuck else is doing it? It isn't some dude who's making fucking $15 an hour working in a warehouse or $20 an hour, or even fucking $100,000 a year, probably isn't buying a person and trafficking a person. It's probably the rich and the powerful and the elites. Think about it. Probably just like slavery. Slavery probably wasn't the regular Joe Schmo who was able to afford buying a person. It was probably the rich, powerful elites that owned lots and lots of land and were running the fucking country and the world at the time. The same motherfuckers that are trying to enslave us all now were probably the ones doing the shit back then too. And they're probably the ones that are trafficking people now for sport and for fun, just to get their kicks, because they don't have a soul and nothing else excites them. So they have to buy a person and do all types of crazy shit with them. So the way that it gets asked in a condescending tone is hilarious. And it's so obvious that the way it's being asked is to try to divert and to try to make the person asking the question to be the crazy one, not the people actually trafficking humans and doing crazy shit with them. So just keep that in mind. And that's my thoughts. I don't know what yours are. Like I said, I'd love to hear them. Email me, the Brave New World Order Podcast at gmail.com. Follow me, DM me on Twitter at Brave NWO Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts about all of this. Maybe you think I'm batshit crazy for asking these questions as too, and I'd love to hear it. Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion. That's a problem. A lot of people who throw these accusations out don't want to have discussions. I've noticed that. They definitely don't. They want to just call you crazy and laugh in your face and say you're just some kind of conspiracy theorist and it's dangerous. It's a threat to our democracy. Well, I think not being able to ask questions and not being able to have discussions is a true threat to the democracy, and everybody knows that. And so it's a threat to their democracy, their system. When you hear them saying a threat to our democracy, they're talking to one another. They're not talking to you. They're talking amongst themselves, the rich and the powerful, and the people on the news who fucking live in gated communities. So I'm definitely ranting a little bit, and it's fun. So that being said, I have a clip for you that is about kind of all the crazy, stuff with human trafficking and the Q and the adrenochrome stuff, how I think there was a little bit of truth in that it was a psychological operation to divert our attention away from all of it, because so they could laugh at anyone who mentions it. If you mention human trafficking or you mention pizza, then you get you're a crazy loon person. But take a listen to this clip and tell me that there wasn't some truth to the adrenochrome conspiracy. Check it out.
On the Health Watch, could the secret to eternal youth be found in blood transfusions from young people? Health reporter Stephanie Stahl has more on a controversial new treatment that's being tested.
Transfusions with young blood from teenagers. Some claim it can reverse the aging process. It's being tested in patients over the age of 35 as part of a clinical trial called Ambrosia, where people paid $8,000 to get the rich growth factors found in blood plasma platelets.
It's pretty much people from most states, people from overseas, from Europe and Australia.
Results of the trial have not been published, but Dr. Jesse Karzeman, who plans to open a business selling young blood, says patients who've had it say they feel amazing. And he says he's seen evidence of reversing the aging process in rats.
Their brains are younger, hearts, their hair, if it was gray, just turns dark again.
There's also been encouraging Alzheimer's research using young blood at Stanford.
So yeah, we're all fucking nuts, right? Anybody who mentioned adrenochrome or blood of youth, and we were all nuts. And now it's being aired and run on local news stories across the country. So, and it's called Ambrosia. That's interesting because Ambrosia in the ancient Greek myths, Ambrosia is the food or drink of the Greek gods, often depicted as conferring longevity or immortality upon whoever consumes it, and it was brought to the gods in Olympus by doves and served by either Hebe or Ganymede at the heavenly feast. So, take that for what you want. Make up your own minds about this stuff. Connect whatever dots you want, but I just want to share the information and let you know that you're probably being psyoped one way or the other from one angle or all angles at all hours of the day if you're consuming mainstream media, and if you're listening to them tell you that questioning things is dangerous, you might want to wonder why. So, I'm going to wrap it up with that. I think I've ranted enough. I think I've shown enough clips to kind of spark your thoughts in your mind and get you thinking for yourselves about all of this stuff. And I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear if you think I'm off base here, if you think I'm fucking standing for Alex Jones, which I'm not. I do appreciate his work, but it's more about free speech. It's more about the Brave New World Order podcast being able to speak freely about what's going on in the world. It's about maybe you're sitting there thinking one day you want to start a podcast, and maybe you're a little timid because you don't want to have to hold back, or you don't want to be accused of being something that you're not. And I want to say, fuck that shit. Start your podcast. Speak your voice. Be fearless. Rise up. Don't let them put fear into you and stop you from being your true self and living up to your true potential. Don't let them do that. That's what this is about as well. It's about all of us seeing somebody like Alex Jones and seeing him getting destroyed, and then we don't want to talk about this stuff because then we see how hard of a battle it's going to be. But you have to be willing to fight. You can't back down and let them put you in your pod in the metaverse and eat your little bugs. So that's why I think this is important, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me at the Brave New World Order Podcast at gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at Brave NWO Podcast. And if you really like what I'm doing, you want to see this show grow, you can click the link in the show notes and you can help support. Any little bit helps. I'm forever grateful for each and every one of you just coming along with me on my journey, trying to dissect this wonderful reality, as wacky And as fucked up as it seems sometimes, it is wonderful. It's beautiful that we are even here and we are able to experience this life. And we could ask questions. So, thank you so much for joining me again on the Brave New World Order podcast. Stay positive, first and foremost. Always try to stay positive. The way we perceive and the way we react to the situations around us can shape our realities. So, stay positive. Think for yourselves. Question everything. I always say it. And I will be back and check in with you shortly. Much love to each and every one of you. Peace out.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.